Welcome, everyone, to the Pom and Fazz EPL show, the last week before we have a break because they go and play Mickey Mouse International Football. We've got the man that was top of the league for about 25 hours, Mr. Fazz. How are you doing?
Oh, mate, hanging on by a thread a little bit crook, but I've got my honey and lemon to get me through. So all good, but up and about, ready to tackle the show. And yes, West Ham were top of the league for approximately 21 hours and 47 minutes, if I was doing my maths correctly. So happy days.
It was an insane week, wasn't it? And Sheffield United came within 20 minutes of, for the first time in a long time, no side getting maximum points from 3 games. It's just shows how bizarre this opening couple of weeks has been, isn't it?
It's been a fascinating start to the season. I think a couple of teams have shown their quality, shown they'll be there and thereabouts. But to me, it's the bottom end of the table that I think. I mean, we spoke about it last week. I think the bottom end of the table is already starting to take shape, which is worrying for some teams. But I think the bottom end of the table is the one that intrigues me the most, because as confident as I am and as positive I am, West Ham aren't finishing second. We know that. So that's not feasible, but it is starting to take shape. And there's a few 6-pointers already coming up for both ends of the table.
Mate, it does look like the bottom 4 are probably clear candidates to go down. We've got the wonderful UK. Thank you very much, mate. Much love to you. Terry Maycock in the house. Chills. He's had a bad day, mate. We're going to rise you up, because if you hate Arsenal like me and Fazz do, we'll find some reasons. But we talked about last week. Let's get straight into it. Pom retains a slim lead. Fazz is whittling it away. But we did start Chelsea. We had a lot to say about Chelsea, and no doubt in the transfer section we'll have more to say about them, because they're just playing Football Manager at the moment with the cheat codes on. But
wild
return to form for the dinosaur runner himself, Raheem Sterling.
Yes, well, we spoke last week about his performance against West Ham was phenomenal, and all that he was lacking was goals. But he continued the hard work, and we know that you work hard in this game, it rewards you. And he got rewarded with 2 goals and an assist, wasn't it? So absolutely, great game, and really, the result was expected. I think Luton are probably going to have to find something defensively, whatever it is. But this was just a Chelsea, walk in the park, really, which is what it is, unfortunately.
Hey, I mean, you know what we haven't talked about as well is Mr. Gutso there. He's only recently got to Chelsea. He was sensational in the back half of the ground. So a little bit of hope there with Chelsea. I mean, they're going to continue to spend. We know that, don't we? We know that probably when we do this show next week, even though it's the international break, no doubt they will have had about 100 signings by then. But it was probably a return to form, wasn't it? Chelsea showed that they can play football.
Yeah, they did. And I think both of us were pretty, I can't remember, but I definitely was pretty bullish about them in our pre-season chat. I think that they'll come good, and they proved on the weekend they've got goals in them. I do like the formation at the back with with Chilwell and Gusto as like wing backs. I think that's really going to make them dangerous. But Matty, how you going? But yeah, I think they just got the business done, and they'll move on.
I think Terry's right. I think Luton are in a world of hurt, to be honest. And
Don't
talk
about
Chills,
that.
it's a soup cup. It's a soup cup filled with tea.
Let's not pile on Luton too much because West Ham are going to play him in approximately 10 hours or something. So,
well, I mean, we'll discuss that game when we get to it. But I mean, you were bullish on Chelsea, and they set the marker down for themselves. They punished a bad side. Whether that says more about Chelsea's quality or Luton's lack of, I suppose we'll find out in the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. They did what they had to do, and that's all you can ask.
And then we come to what was a tough one to tip, I thought. Bournemouth hosting Angie's Spurs, the 4-time NSL winner, showing his credentials. And really, this game was James Maddison's swan song. He has looked signing of the season only a couple of games in.
Yeah, he looks good, but we know the quality he is. And he is a Postecoglou player, so he'll fit into that system really well. Interesting, Tottenham. You know, I know we're not going to talk about it too much, but Postecoglou's went from hero to zero in the space of a couple of days when they got knocked out of the Carabao Cup. So they're still hard to get a read on. I do like their Premier League form. I think that they've got goals in them, which is a really important thing to have considering they lost Harry Kane. The fact that they've got goals in them. Their defense still is a concern for me. Keeping a clean sheet is great. But when they come up against better opposition, their defense is still a little bit shaky for my liking. But hey, they're going to play sexy football. And they got the job done. And like with the Chelsea game, well, that's all you can ask. Just get the job done.
Mate, they look fairly solid, and Glenn's spot on. Maddison does look quality. I mean, it does make you think, though. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I was watching that game and thinking, if only they had Harry Kane with Maddison providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you imagine? It'd be different class. In fact, if they were still to have Harry Kane, I'd be tipping them to definitely be a challenger almost. Look, Maddison, I've liked Maddison since his Norwich days. To be honest, I remember watching him go around there. And,
going way back there.
Yeah. And then he went to Leicester, and but no, I've really rated him for a long time. And as painful as his words are to come out of my mouth, it's good to see him at a big club, medium-sized club.
Well, Terry says Wrexham will win the Premier League before him. I mean, Spurs are always the bridesmaid, never quite the bride.
Absolutely.
Humble brag time for Pom, because I had a few Arsenal fans message me and say I've got it in for Arsenal because I tipped a draw. Lo and behold, I said 1-1. It was 2-2. 10-man Fulham snagging a late draw. Paulinho continuing his great form. Probably the tail, though, here is Saka look quality, and Eddie Nketiah finally will come on to England a bit later, but proving his international quality, getting his call up off the back of his form.
Absolutely. I was watching this game live, and as soon as that Paulinho goal went in, I'm like, oh, gee, I can't wait for Friday to hear you, because I knew you were up about. Look, Arsenal, they've got a bit of the same issues for me as what Tottenham do. They got goals in them. We know they got goals in them. We know they got quality around the ball, but their defense is so shaky. I did say when Timber went down, I thought that's a horrible, horrible loss. I mean, Saliba's back in, but I just don't know if they can trust the likes of Ben White and those types of players. I just don't think they can trust them. I personally, and people come at me, and that's fine. I don't think Ben White is Premier League quality centre back. I don't think he is. I think he's more of the right side rather than a centre back, and that was proven. Get caught out. Was it Trossard playing that false 9 almost? I mean, he's not really that striker, is he? Like, this setup confused me. I'll be honest. It confused me from Arteta. I don't really know what his angle was with it. I like to consider myself to be a Declan Rice expert, and I think they're playing him differently to what is best. And that's what I thought. I did actually think that was going to happen. Declan Rice going to a big club, an attacking football club. He's not an attacking player. He's a sit in front of your back four and just be that bull at the back. And they're trying to make him be something he's not. And that's not a criticism of Declan. It's not a criticism of whatever. It's just sometimes you've just got to accept who you are. And Declan Rice is the best defensive midfielder in the world. I don't care what anyone says. And they're trying to make him get goals, get assists. He has to plonk his big ass right in front of that back four. Last season, he scored, I think, 2 Premier League goals and 4 assists for the season, and a couple more in the Europa Conference, ultimately going on to lift that trophy, which is fantastic for him. But he is a defensive midfielder first and foremost, and the sooner Arteta works that out, and the sooner Arteta can work how that looks with their formation, the better for them. But until they do, they're going to be caught out behind, because Declan Rice will get lost up the field. He needs to be... I've always argued, I think his best position is almost as a centre-back, to be honest, in a back three. But, yeah, he needs to sit in front of that back four. They can't be pushing him up, especially with Trossard playing as a false nine or a striker, whatever the fuck he was doing. That's not good for Rice.
I agree with you, and I agree with Red Pill Bosnag as well. I thought getting rid of the Manx, Roberto Carlos, and Kieran Tierney to La Liga. But I agree with you. I was watching last year. Partey kind of played the role you described, kind of the old school Roy Keane, just in front of the back four, giving them the protection and then passing the ball on to more talented players. I don't think Declan Rice is a box-to-box midfielder. I think he's your old school, archaic, see the ball, clear the ball, and you might get a goal from him as they clear it from a corner and he wellies it back in twice a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, so I think they need to work that out. And the sooner they work that out, the better for them.
Mate, I agree with you. And unlucky Arsenal fans. Chills, mate, stick around. Hopefully we can educate you on this great game. And then we went to probably the tie of the round. This was the openest game I've ever seen. Both of these sides tried to put on a performance. And again, probably the goal of the week from Kevin Shardy. It was a peach.
How this game ended 1-1 has me absolutely gobsmacked. It was the best game to watch from neutral of the week. This game had every business to be 3-3 or 4-4 almost. It was an incredible game to watch. Early contender for goal of the season. I really like Crystal Palace at the moment. I really like what they're doing. I think they're kind of flying under the radar a bit because old Roy Hodgson, he's kind of, it's not sexy. Crystal Palace aren't sexy, you know what I mean? Like it's not, you're not going out of your way. Like Brentford are a sexy team to watch, but Crystal Palace, they're flying under the radar. I reckon old Roy, he's got him playing some good football, and they're a real watch this space for me. I'm keeping one eye open on them because I really, really liked the way they played. And Brentford's a tough place to go because they play bloody good football.
Never underestimate an old man, Fazz.
Absolutely. And we'll get to that.
Around the block.
And we'll get to that in a couple of games' time about my opinions on older managers. So,
and from the tie of the round, me and Fazz warned you do not watch this game. And even the 3-minute bite-size monologue of this game is a tough fucking watch. Wolves got a last-minute winner in a game that probably the biggest event was the ref blowing the whistle twice to kick the game off either end. Both of these sides, massive relegation contenders, and this game said nothing about it because even the goal was shit. So,
it was. Wolves have got a what I called a 6-pointer straight away. I mean, this is, and I don't want to oversell this here. This is a horrendous result for Everton. A disgustingly horrendous result at home against a team who most of us tipped to finish 19th, 18th. They're bang in trouble, Everton. They are bang in trouble because I tell you what, you look at their starting 11, that is a relegation 11. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I look at that team and you know what? I watched the last 20 minutes because I thought that might have been better. So I went back and watched 20 minutes of it because I was struggling to sleep after the game we're about to talk about. And I've got to admit, that is a mid-table championship team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then again, I don't know what he's playing at, Dyche. I think, yeah, look, they did having Calvert-Lewin get injured is going to hurt them. There's nothing to say, really. Wolves, they got 3 points they didn't deserve. I mean, they didn't deserve the win, but they got their 3 points. And you know they didn't deserve to win because the man of the match was the goalkeeper, Sarr. So that's tough going. That's I can't. Although, yeah, again,
dead and buried. I tell you, both of them teams dead and buried. And Chills, you can watch this Optus. Peter V nailed it. But then we come on to my boys, and I tell you what, I wasn't expecting a nail biter, to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I got there, my Man United shirt, sat in bed, cup of tea, was thinking it's going to be a cruisy 3-0, 4-0 at home. And before I knew it, probably the worst defensive mistake ever for the first. Not too sure what Marcus Rashford was doing. And then the bally free header when he didn't even move. But United, probably being questioned for character over the last 5 years, showed tremendous character to fight back. And Bruno Fernandes with an absolute sealer with 20 minutes to go. United not looking good, but getting the job done every week.
Look, I was very close to doing a welfare check on you 5 minutes into the game. That was harrowing. But I guess you can look at it two ways. You can look at it glass half empty, glass half full. This time of the year, with a team like Manchester United, I prefer to look at the glass half full, and that is they're showing, as you said, a quality that you could argue hasn't been at Manchester United since the Ferguson days, and that is the ability to fight and grind out a dirty result. 3-2 doesn't on paper look like a dirty result. That looks like a good game. But against a team like Forest, that is a dirty dig your heels in and get the job done. And I think that in itself is impressive because at 2-0 down, that had a it was ominous, a banana skin written all over it. Yeah. So I think take out that first 5 minutes and United were by far the better team.
Mate, and after this is a question for Fazz and chat, but I agree. I think Maguire needs to move. I think Newcastle, they play a very old school flat back four, so I think Maguire slots in at Newcastle.
Yeah.
I think he's the only top 5 club he could play for.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a good move if he went there. Some experience in Champions League, which they're definitely going to need if when we get to that later. I think it's a smart move. Southgate, which again we'll get to later, proved that Maguire doesn't need to go anywhere to keep getting selected for England. But we'll talk about that later. I think it's a smart move. Makes sense. The conversation about Newcastle might be, do they lack leaders? Potentially. And Maguire's that, whether you like him or not, he's a leader. And I can see a move to Newcastle being very positive.
Well, the question I've got for you, Faz, as we come on to your wonderful boys and the chat, watching Nottingham Forest, they caught United on the counter, sat back, absorbed the pressure, quick, nimble striker. We're seeing West Ham do a job on probably the form team outside of City. We saw Sheffield United. We'll come on to them. Are we seeing the return, Faz, of the long ball to beat these possession-based sides? Because it feels like it's coming back.
Absolutely, we are. Long continue. And what I will say is, I mentioned this earlier about Roy Hodgson. You can give me your sexy, young foreign managers, right, and shove them up your ass. Because I tell you now, De Zerbi, as good as he's been, he got absolutely schooled by David Moyes. He took him to school and taught him a lesson on this is the Premier League, mate. This isn't your bush league. This isn't your farmers league where you can kick the ball around. This is the Premier League. You can't play that shit. You can't. It's not sustainable. This is the Premier League, and David Moyes taught him an absolute lesson. You don't manage 1,000 games in the Premier League without knowing what you're doing. We are seeing the return of experienced managers by age. Hodgson, Moyes, Postecoglou's not young. We are seeing it. We are seeing the return of how to beat. You can't beat these teams playing their way, which is why I said in the preseason about Burnley, why I think they're going to struggle is because they try and play that tiki-taka possession football. You can't beat these teams. You need to beat them another way. And I tell you what, I have never been more impressed with West Ham in a Premier League game than I was on the weekend. And David Moyes, hats off to him because he absolutely schooled that De Zerbi, and long may it continue. And you know what? You could argue, and I'll agree, having 20% possession is not sustainable either. But I tell you what, when you win 3-1 away from home against a possession-based team, what more can you say?
And I think it, you know what? I watched that game and I could feel Fazz throbbing in his pants watching that game because although it was 20%, right? I've got to say this. I thought Brighton, when I watched Man United, we had a lot of the ball. It looked like we were trying to do something. Brighton in the second half could be argued that it was possession for the sake of possession. They did not know how to breach the West Ham back four. Yeah. You could tell they had no idea.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great point. And my old man used to have the philosophy when watching a very poor Carlton side, okay? And his philosophy was, we don't want to have the ball because the more we have the ball, the more likely we are to turn it over, right? And I think that's the case. Brighton, midfield forward, look okay, but their back four, mate, every time they went near the ball, they looked shaky as. And if you want to play possession football, you can't have a back four that's shaky. The first two goals were literally because of the mistakes in the back four. You can't have that.
Mate, I agree. And Terry says, have you watched the West Ham ladies doc?
Yes, I did. I checked it out during the week. Someone put it to me. Very good. Very good. Actually, yeah, it was Terry. Terry, you mentioned it to me. I did watch it during the week, and very insightful. And I think anyone wants an insight about the ownership of West Ham and what they're doing, definitely check it out. So thanks for that, Terry. It was awesome.
Mate, there you are, chat. Get on it. And then we come to Faz talks about them. The sexy football of Company entertained Villa, and this was a return to form for Polish sensation Matty Cash, who popped up with not one but two goals. Moussa Diaby, another guy that might be rivaling James Ward-Prowse and Cuff signing of the year. Villa absolutely destroyed them, and if Villa are destroying you at home, these probably lucky Wolves, Everton, and Luton are so bad. Yes,
self-indulgent time. I did call it in the preseason. I didn't think Burnley would be that good, and everyone's saying, "Oh, they're the best championship team of all time. Look what they've done." You can't play that football unless you got the players, and you got to remember where he's come from. Their manager, he's come from City. He knows, and he's trying to play Man City football at a club who just can't do it. So they're in big trouble, and I'm going to call it. I reckon he's the first manager sacked.
Good call. I mean, to play that way, it means your chairman really backs in that style. And we've seen it before in the Premier League. Chairmen kind of get ahead of themselves. Leeds with Bielsa, they kind of get ahead of themselves, sexy football, and then they try and change to what keeps you alive. Flat back four, rugged football when the players can't make that shift. I agree with you. I think Burnley could be in a load of strife this year.
The two things I'll say, a great friend of mine, when West Ham sacked Sam Allardyce back in the day, said, "Be careful what you wish for." And I couldn't agree more. Going from because everyone's Allardyce shit football. They brought in Bilic, had a great season, then got sacked. They brought in Pellegrini. Sometimes you've just got to accept who you are. You've got to look in the mirror and accept you've got a scar here. You've got a mole there. You've got your one eye is a bit bigger than the other. That's fine. Just accept who you are, embrace who you are, and you're going to be better for it, which is why West Ham, David Moyes, we're a David Moyes team. Don't like it? Well, that's who we are. Burnley, at the moment, their identity just makes no sense. When you say sexy football, do you think Burnley? Not a chance.
I've been on a night out in Burnley. I can tell you there's not much sexy in Burnley apart from the road out. But we're talking about sexy football, City. And there was two things about this game, Fazz. One, I think City are in trouble when they play shit sides. I think exactly like Fazz. I thought Sheffield United did well. One thing that alarmed me, though, and I've seen a few Arsenal fans get excited in the week about this, is that last 10 minutes when City realised that there was 3 points at stake, when they went up a gear, they can beat anyone. And that was I thought that last 10 minutes showed more about their title credentials than any game this year, because as soon as that goal went in, you knew City were going to score within about a minute.
Yeah, I think the commentators said along the lines of that's what champion teams do. They're a champion team. I'm really look. I know there's a game beforehand, but I'm really looking forward to West Ham Man City after the international break, because I think if there's a team who plays a game that's going to make Man City struggle, it is a West Ham, because you can have all the ball you want, but if you're going nowhere with it, they basically created those chances. That Haaland goal was a joke. I mean, like, what was that? And then the Rodri goal, a bit of brilliance. But fair credit and hats off to Sheffield. They fought hard. Unfortunately, you get no points for fighting hard. And they started their campaign with three 1-goal losses. So that's pretty stiff.
Doing well though.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a bit of hope for Sheffield United. Yeah. Bit of hope, because they can score as well.
They've got points around the corner, that's for sure.
Rodri was very clutch. And Ali asks, sacking Tuchel, was that a mistake? I actually think, and me and Faz have discussed this at length, I think teams like Chelsea get way trigger happy. Like, you look at City, the coach has been there years. You look at Arsenal, they've given Arteta probably way too long compared to the other top four. United have sacked coaches every 2 years. Hopefully they're in the long haul. I think, look at West Ham. People wanted West Ham sacked. Moyes sacked last year, and Europe saved him. Look at the results he's getting now. Sometimes it's not as black and white, is it, as instant results?
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. Absolute mistake. By all reports, there was a falling out with him and the board. But that was a massive mistake. I mean, I like Poch. They've got Poch. I think he'll be good for them, but they had to go through some shit to get him. So, yeah, big mistake.
Frank Lampard return, mate. And we talked about champion teams find a way. This was one of them games that I watched this game and I thought Newcastle, up until about the 75th minute, had got this wrapped up. And I was thinking we're going to come on this show and say, are Newcastle Man City's threat? Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, are Newcastle the best team? But then Darwin Núñez, 2 moments of brilliance. Mo Salah's fantastic work deep into stoppage time. Liverpool finding that gear, and that's the kind of win that can catapult you, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is a monster win for Liverpool, and do not understate how big of a win it is. Equally, I spoke about managers before. I think, and I'm Eddie Howe's biggest fan, but I think he got taught a big lesson this week in that game. I thought that was just it was a masterclass from Liverpool. I think belief is a very, very scary thing, and for the rest of the competition, they don't want Liverpool getting belief at all because that's going to cause trouble.
And like Peter says, without their legendary captain Virgil as well, I mean, that's a tough ask. I mean, that last 10 minutes was a little bit like City's last 10 minutes against Sheffield United. There was an impending doom circulating at St. James's Park. And once Darwin scored, you knew they were going to get the winner.
Absolutely. It was you could just feel it. And good on Liverpool. It was a monstrous win. That's an interesting call, Terry. Yeah.
I like that from Terry. I would love it, but we've done the league, and this is what we're here for. Champions League kicks off. United drawn in Group A.
Yep.
Trips to Galatasaray, Copenhagen, and Bayern. Fairly routine group for United because obviously you've got one good club there, but you'd fancy United to progress out of that group.
Yeah, to me, that's a stock standard Champions League group, to be honest. If you were to say, hey, Google, show me a Champions League group, that would be it. Like you've got just great teams in there, well-known teams. But I think United finish second in that group comfortably. May even challenge for top depending on how the Bayern games go.
And it's great for United as well. I mean, Galatasaray, you remember... If you go way back, 1993, I'm old enough to remember that. Welcome to hell. Tough place to go. Always a good atmosphere. Always a tough away day. So Galatasaray, they've always got that home ground advantage as well. It's a good group where your favourites to progress, I think, because you're going to be challenged.
Yeah. And I think that's the tricky part with European football is you want a group that you're confident you're going to get out of, but you actually want a challenge because it keeps the players sharp and it allows you to, one of the biggest risks that you can have is playing a seconds team. And I think coming up against these teams, you can't play a seconds team against these teams. So you could rotate your squad a little bit, but it keeps them sharp. So I like it. It's a good group.
Mate, I'm going to upset people here, right? Arsenal fans are locking in. Pom's big call, bookmark this. Sevilla, PSV Eindhoven, and Lyon. I reckon they finish third.
Oh, love that. It's a big call.
I think that's a tough group.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough group because they're tough places to go, yeah? Like, they're not... It's... Whilst it's might be a case of, Arsenal's probably the bigger club in all of those. They're tough places to go. They're not easy teams. Hostile environments. Big call. I like it. Third. Let's do it.
Mate, Sevilla, European specialists.
Absolutely, they are.
You know what? There is a lot of goals in that Eindhoven side. A lot of goals in that Eindhoven side.
No, I like it.
Tell you what, Arsenal fans, come at me. And then the bitter rivals, Celtic, drawn with Atletico Madrid, Feyenoord, and Lazio. This is a second place there, like Celtic, in fairness to them. They look at that. Lazio, good side. Feyenoord, a good side. If they can win their home games... It's kind of a mathematical thing that if you can snatch a win against one of these sides, could be pole position because you'd say its home form is going to kill you in this one.
Absolutely. If I'm Celtic, I think this is the best opportunity they've had to get out of a group and go into the next round because Atletico, yeah, but the other two. They shouldn't fear them.
Tough place to go as well, Old Park. Shit
yeah,
place.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? But Terry saying won't get a point. tell you what, I hope they don't, but I can see I can see some shocks. I can see some shocks, and fuck them. Group F, though, we always have a group of death. And tell you what, if you could pick 3 teams you didn't want in each pot, if you were Newcastle, they got that pot. This is an incredibly tough group.
Oh, mate. This is... you know that I think I used this joke last week, but you know that picture we're all fond of where you got the nice little petite white girl sitting on the couch and the big burly men behind her, and this is Newcastle going to Champions League football. Oh my God! Talk about a baptism of fire. Welcome to Champions League football, Newcastle United. See you next season, because you are out of that group, my friends.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to do, what they did in 97, aren't they? Like with Tino Asprilla and stuff, doing the miracle run in the Champions League. Like, we know that historically they have big European nights. I remember the last time, I think it was Eindhoven, Kiev, and Barca. From memory, it was a tough group going way back as well. Kiev were pretty good. They're going to have to do something special, even to get third to go into the Europa, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. They're banging trouble. Yeah,
tough group. Tough group. And we finish with City, who, as per usual in these draws, UEFA kissed them on the willy. Lipsbig, Red Star Belgrade. Oh, Jesus Christ! And then the comedically named Bern Young Boys. This is as close to a Carabao Cup group as you could get for City, isn't it?
Yeah, Haaland won't play a single minute in the group stage of Champions League football because they won't need to. That's a piss take. That's as equally as... Sorry, it's as good as for Man City as what it is bad for Newcastle. Like that's a joke.
Yeah, you know what? Newcastle will be kicking themselves and just thinking, if we just waited one pot, do you know what I mean? In another world, that could have been Paris Saint-Germain, Lipsbig, Red Star Belgrade, and Young Boys, and there's a chance there of getting through. Like, City don't need that cushy draw, do they?
Nah, it's trouble.
It's going to be a very, very easy group. And we come on, we talked about it. There's a lot to talk about here. Southgate, after doing his interview on Talk Sport, saying that it's going to start to be tougher to get in the England national team, saying that he's spoke to players such as Phillips and Maguire about England form is going to come into it with the club. He's picked the same team that we always see with Eddie Nketiah coming in, but surprise, Henderson, Phillips, and Maguire have been named in this. Fazz. He likes his favourites, doesn't he?
Look, this is frustrating because of what he said in the media, in the interview that he had. If he didn't say those words, you're just like, cool, whatever. If he come out and said, I've got my squad and I'm sticking with my squad no matter what happens, cool, whatever. But the fact he come out and said what he said, that these players need to be playing minutes to get in the squad, he just looks like a liar. Like he's an idiot. How Harry Maguire and Phillips are anywhere near this squad at the moment. Now, I know I've got a dog in the fight on this. I get it. But how James Ward-Prowse and Jared Bowen, how they did not even feature in this squad has me absolutely blown away. I don't know. I'd love to see his reasoning. If he's got a reason, great, go for it. But fucking hell,
mate,
there's not much.
It's an interesting conversation to have as well, because you look, Bowen is probably arguably there. Marcucci at Chelsea, he's played every minute. Sterling on his form you would have thought. And he did mention Sterling by name, saying Sterling was unlucky. I agree. I think Southgate won't get a job in the Premier League. It's a very interesting selection in it because I think the Henderson one as well surprises me the most because I don't know how you can play for one of the top sides in the world when you're playing in Saudi Arabia, with all due respect to Saudi Arabia, in a position that England have bucket loads of players. I would have thought that would be the end of Henderson.
But apparently not. Here we are. And look, do we give leeway this squad? And then in a month's time or whatever, we look at the next squad? I don't know. But to tell you what, scary. Very scary.
Cameron, James Tav is the best right back in world football, and I will die on that hill. How he's never got an England call-up is beyond me. But yeah, the England... he's obviously got his favourites, and I suppose there is an argument. World Cup quarterfinals, Euro finals. It's hard to look past what he's done, but the Maguire one, this guy's not even training with the first team at times at United.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And even if, I don't know, even if Maguire was getting 90 minutes a week at an Everton or something, would you even have him just because? I just don't know. I do agree with what you're saying in regards to you can't look past the Euro final and the World Cup, semis and all that, whatever. But he didn't win them, did he? Maybe he didn't win them because he is picking these players.
It's a good call. It's a good call. It's a bizarre one, and England have a job to do, starting with Ukraine. If heaven forbid he loses one of the next two fixtures, questions are going to be asked, particularly if it's not any goals from Sterling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we come on to transfer deadline, everyone's favourite time. Very easy if you're Australian as well to watch this because it's sociable hours for us, no late nights. A few deals being linked to be done, right? So we're just going through the ones that are still waiting business. Eric Dyer is probably the most bizarre one. Rumoured to be joining Harry Kane at Bayern.
Confusing. I don't get it, but yeah. That is a bizarre move. I can't see it happening, but then again, I don't know. Yeah. That's a strange one. That'd be his England career done, wouldn't it?
Well, he's played in a proper league, so yeah, he probably won't get selected. United are going to be very active. We don't often see United loan in the glory days, but it has been a new thing. Sergio Reguilón coming from Spurs. Aaron Batt evidently has had his offer accepted in a loan deal from Fiorentina. United definitely need that. But the big news for Fazz is the talk at Sky Sports at the moment. West Ham have made one last-ditch effort to bring Maguire there.
Yes, well, I can't see that happening personally. I think he's done his dash a bit. Look, I wouldn't mind it. Kurt Zuma is a bit injury prone and Mavropanos is injured at the moment. So, yeah, I'd take it. In regards to United, the loaning of a Spurs depth player is an interesting one. And I hope that Aaron Batt gets across because I did watch him very closely in the Europa Conference final, where he played quite well and just couldn't quite get the job done against West Ham, I believe it was, in that final. But I did watch him very closely. He's a very, very good player, and I think he's got Premier League qualities. So, yeah.
Fred, I reckon it was 90 miles an hour. Definitely hit him hard. Fazz as well with the most subtle drop of West Ham being European champions there. I've been waiting all show for it. He snuck it in. A couple of other transfers expected. Gravenbach to Liverpool has been reignited. That could be a real... I really rate Gravenberch. He was one of the guys that I was looking at last year when United were desperate for a CDM. Looks like he's going to go across, which could be huge for Liverpool because it's probably the one position they lack depth in.
Would be a monster signing for them. Coming off a great win, they can get a good result again this weekend and then bring him across the position that they lack the most and probably have lacked for the last few seasons. Monster signing.
And it gets more bizarre. Ansu Fati has just signed with Brighton. So it shows you how crazy the Premier League is. 1 minute you're playing at the Nou Camp. Next minute you're at the Amex Stadium.
Yep, chasing seagulls. Wild. In my wildest... That's some FIFA shit. You know, like, anyway, good luck to him. Be interesting to see how he settles into Premier League football. A bit tougher than probably what he's used to. So good luck to him. Crazy signing from Brighton. How did they pull that off? But anyway.
Well, I mean, the Premier League has its pull, doesn't it? And I suppose that really does say to teams in the Premier League that you've only got to be in that top 8 for a couple of years. And the reputation really, the buying power can change. Like me and Fazz keep talking about slowly building and getting out of mid-table. A couple of years in 8th, and before you know it, you can attract these big players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the lure of European football, be it Europa or Champions League, is pretty powerful. It's pretty strong. And we're seeing that. And yeah, I think you can see these types of players going, knowing that there's European football. And I think that's you can attract these players, you stay there longer. Simple as that.
And we always like to bully Chelsea. Now, since May the 31st, they are about to announce Cole Palmer from Man City. Reports are everything is accepted. Now, Todd, their chairman, arrived in May, right? The 20th, 2022. And since that time, they have signed a staggering over $1.1 billion worth of footballers, right? And some of them I had to Google, but these are the names: Sterling, Slaninia, Casaday, Bader Shai, Majuk, Morgan, Matos, Gabriel, Ugur Koken, Koulibaly, Fofana, Santos, Mudryk, Gutso, Jackson, Moria, Sanchez, Hutchinson, Chirachella, Old Abba Bumbaclart, Fofana, Fernandez, Nkunku, who's injured, Samuel Smith, Desai, Casiedo, Lavia, Washington, Petrovic, and now Cole Palmer. Some of them players have already been sold on. An absolute exorbitant amount of money they've spent.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And surely they're starting to be investigated for something, because that's just wild signing. To be fair, they do sell along the way, but some wild signings. I said this when they signed Lavia. The Cole Palmer one, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. Like, they don't have European football. Well, it is, but fuck me. They don't have European football. Like, how are they going to rotate the squad? I just don't get it.
Deep running the Carabao Cup.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, deeper than Tottenham anyway.
Mate, he's not a cup specialist. Ooh. He's a league specialist. But we're here with the tips, and we start in about 7 hours.
That first one's wrong straight away.
God. Oh, wait, sorry. You've gone 4-0 West Ham, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, actually,
flip that. That's my fault. Fazz, he's going 4-0 West Ham. I'm gone 2-0. West Ham surely kill Luton.
Yes. Well, I would hope so. I would hope so. A few of those. Yeah, I've just got them up. What I sent you, and they're a bit different, but that's all right. That's all right. We'll go through them slowly. It's all good.
Tell you what, we'll What has Pom done? Faz, you read
No
yours
stress.
out. So Everton,
Yeah.
Sheffield United. I'm going 1-0 Sheffield United. Faz, you.
Yeah, I had 1-0 Sheffield, 1-0 Sheffield United as well. There's no way I'd be tipping Everton to kick 3.
I'm not too sure what Pom's done here.
Don't stress.
Yeah, I agree with you, Faz. Sheffield United. I think Everton are the worst side in the history of Premier League, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't see Everton getting. I'd be surprised if they have points by Christmas the way they're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Brentford, Bournemouth. I tipped 2-1. Faz.
Yeah, that's right. That one's right.
All right, that's good news. Well, I mean, I agree. I think Brentford, they'll bounce back after last week. Probably unlucky with the draw at times. Could have been a big game. I think they'll put Bournemouth to the sword.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so too. That's absolutely.
And the mighty Burnley, after we've slated them, that's definitely wrong. I've gone 2-0, Faz.
Yeah, you've stitched me up, mate.
I've gone, what have I had?
I've gone 3-1 Spurs.
I've gone crazy somewhere on the thing. No, I agree with you. No Carabao Cup to worry about. So I expect Spurs. We know European football. They're league form.
Absolutely.
He might add a fourth, and to the 4 NCOs he won.
Absolutely. What a champion of the game.
So Chelsea, I'm guessing Faz picked a Chelsea win in this one. I went 2-1.
Yes,
Faz?
I went 3-1. 3-1.
3-1. I love it. Yeah, Chelsea, we've slated them, but with that squad, this is the battle of the squads, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. They could play 3 games against each other. It's wild.
It should be the opening fixture, shouldn't it? It should be like they could have like a pre-game, a post game, and then like just the main game, like just to give us some entertainment.
Definitely.
And then we go to City, Fulham, and this game I think on paper sounds really, really exciting as well. I think this could be one of them ones that you just get excited about, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think City, this scores right. I think City will will do the business. But I don't think it'll be pretty. I think it'll be, I think Fulham will give them a game. That's for sure.
It's going to be interesting how they bounce back because obviously they'll have a bit of hope, Fulham, after seeing what Southampton did. So they really pressed them and pressed them.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
they can do that. And your boy, we know you love Paulina.
yeah. I think they'll play a game that can hurt City. I think they can get in behind and Paulina. They just need a worldie. You score a worldie and you're up and going. So but City I think will get the job done 2-0.
It should be an entertaining one. And then we go Brighton at home to Newcastle. Brighton outshone by probably, there you are, Faz, I've updated it. Outshone last week by the mighty West Ham. We're both going with a draw here.
Yeah. So I've got 2-0. I think it's going to be a cracking game. I did say it. To me, I think this is the match of the round. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going 2-2, and it would not surprise me if either team nicked it late. But I couldn't separate them. So 2-2 for me.
It's going to be a good game. That's the one. That's probably the game you want to get up and watch if your team's not playing.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we've got Fazzy's mate Roy Hodgson entertains. Probably a side that would struggle to get out of League 2 at the moment. This could be a big game, couldn't it?
Could be a monster game. If Wolves can nick a point here or the 3 points, you have to start looking at them and saying, geez, they've had a great start to the season. But I can't get past how impressive Palace have been. I think they've been super impressive. I think they'll put 2 past them. Because at the end of the day, even though Wolves got the 3 points last week, I thought they were horrible, equally as horrible. And Roy will just get them going. 2-0. I think they'll do it comfortably.
I agree. That wily old manager, he's not going to be lax down the back like Everton were for Wolves. So, yeah, you're in trouble that game, I think. I think they're in trouble.
Absolutely.
And then Liverpool, Villa have gone about their work quietly. Fazz going 3-2, Pom going comfortable win. This game, though, is one of them games that's a proper Premier League game. That if Aston Villa score early, can Liverpool do it twice in a row?
Tasty. This game is tasty. And just like the Brighton Newcastle game, I think this is going to be a cracking game. I can just see Liverpool. I think that they're one of the informed teams at the moment. That belief, I think it'll be tight. I do think Villa will score early, but I can see Liverpool doing it again and getting over the line. But it'll be a cracking game.
Mate, I agree with you. I think it's a game that you want to watch, and a game that I'll end my week with no AFL football. So I'm narrowed down with opportunities to win. Having spent a lot of time taking the piss out of Arsenal, I get to play them. And both me and Fazz are going with the safe 1-0 draw.
Yeah, hard to split these teams. Arsenal haven't impressed me at all. I think I was going to go 0-0, but I thought, nah, both teams will score. So 1-0, I think. Dare I say it? I think this is almost a must-win game this early on in the season for Arsenal. If they're legit title contender, they need to get all 3 points here, but I don't think they will.
Hey, it's going to be entertaining to see what happens here because, I mean, this game here is, we talked about the 6-pointer last week with Everton and Wolves. This is really, if you're going for Champions League, this is an early 6-pointer, isn't it?
Absolutely it is, and not just Champions League, but like I said, for Arsenal for the title, this is huge, and I can't separate them. But yeah, they're going to be going. If either team can get the 3 points here, will come the end of the season, they'll look back and say that was the game.
It could be an absolute dream. And while we're on the air, the Europa League draw is still ongoing, but intriguing group here for you, Fazz. West Ham, Olympiacos, and Freiburg at the moment.
Ooh, tough groups. Tough teams.
Brighton have just been drawn in Group B with Ajax and Marseille. That's a bit of a group of death, isn't it?
That's a horrible group. But Olympiacos, don't mind Olympiacos. I think we could get the business done there. And who's the other one? Freiburg.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Rangers have just been drawn with Real Betis and Sparta Prague.
Yeah, not bad. Winnable. Very 50-50.
Liverpool were just about to get their next team, but they've got, and we're in this wonderful period of time where you could actually be Googling teams, but LASK, Austrian fourth side last year, and Union SG Liverpool have got almost guaranteed to progress from that group, you would have thought.
Oh, they are so out of that group, it's not even funny. So, yeah.
Mate, Big Reed here, good mate of mine, big Adelaide guy, but he also loves his hammers. Good group. Some questions to finish with. How do we rate Ange? I mean, we do like Ange, don't we? We got someone got upset last week when he talks about the NSL, which has become our new tagline. I've actually ordered shirts saying Ange 4-time NSL. But I mean, he's got a philosophy, hasn't he? And to be honest, it is groundbreaking stuff. I mean, I don't mean to patronize Australians, but you would have said outside of Kuhl and Viduka and Craig Moore, no one, and Tim Cahill, no one really knows Australia's prowess. This really opens the door for your Australian managers that the opportunities exist. And I think he's done it the right way as well. He's gone round the houses. He hasn't taken any shortcuts. Opportunity comes at the right time. And I think he'll do well. Should he be given time? Because we know the nature of the Premier League.
Yes, and I think we just to defend ourselves, we weren't really shit canning him or whatever. We were more having a go at Tottenham, knowing who Tottenham are and saying they're not going. Will they give him the time? Gee, they love sacking managers, and saying that this is the Premier League. That you don't just get gifted time just for no reason, especially someone who probably doesn't have the respect at that level. For Postecoglou, but I think if they can give him time, and he's proven to be able to get results, I think it's huge. I think he'll be awesome for them.
Mate, I agree, and I think they'll do well. I know PeterV loves a little bit of South Melbourne. They say, look, Reid, it will. I mean, it opens up the doors for Australian coaches. I mean, Graham Arnold gets out of the group stage at the next World Cup, and before you know it, he'll be managing Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Graham Arnold's been linked to one of the Scottish.
Yeah, he turned down. I think he turned down. Was it? It wasn't hit. Was it Hibs?
Possibly. So yeah, so that would have been interesting. So he turned that down. That's fine. But so he's obviously on the radar of a few. So.
The question I've got about Ange, and Fazz, I know you're Ange connoisseur, is
yes,
his time at Celtic, he always looked vulnerable in the cup competitions, right? So I'll as much as I hate Celtic, their league form under Ange, they looked absolutely fucking unbeatable at times. There was times that I watched Celtic and vomited in my mouth, because I was like, there's no way anyone can touch them. They never looked like dropping points. When they came in the cups, though, they looked a bit temperamental. Now, he coached in cups internationally here. Obviously, cups in Japan and other Mickey Mouse countries don't really hold the same esteem. Do you think that might be his vulnerability? Looking at the Carabao Cup, they were very disappointing. Do you think that could be... I'm a firm believer there's cup managers and there's league managers, and it's two different styles.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And he does struggle with the cups, which he's proven, knocked out of the Carabao Cup. Look, he's not going to win the league with Tottenham. He simply won't. So I don't know. If Tottenham fans are happy that he's getting knocked out of the cups, when was the last time he won a trophy? Do you know what I mean? Like, when was the last time Tottenham won a trophy? So
you see, that's my concern, because obviously, if you're not going deep in the cups, no disrespect to them, they ain't winning the league. So he's going to be judged on
exactly
cups,
right,
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be knocked out so meekly against a cup that they probably would consider themselves to be winning. Yeah. I don't know.
Mate, interesting. When did they last win it?
Oh,
I'm trying to think. Didn't they win a League Cup like just before in the mid-noughties?
Possibly. They hold their heads on that Champions League final, don't they? Isn't that what they hold their hats on? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's a big trophy. I'll give him that. But I mean, like domestic. But do you know what I mean? But I mean, like domestically, it's not been great, has it, for them? Like one Champions League run versus mediocrity. How do we rate the Aussies men's World Cup wins? We only lost to the two finalists. Do you reckon Australia could be that side that comes from obscurity? A lot of good players. Like, you've got players playing their trade in Italy. You've got the women as well, which will be a boost. Is that going to be something that you think, Fazz, that we can see? A lot of young Australians going over to Europe. Do you think that's something that in maybe 10 years that's going to bear a bit of fruit?
No. I don't think so.
Get out, fam.
No, I don't. Look, I thought the Australian Men's World Cup run was fantastic. I thought they did a really good job. That win against Denmark was superb. But the reality is, something got lost along the way, and I've been really big on this. Something got lost along the way. Australia making the World Cup
is huge.
Should be celebrated. It is enormous, and I think it's kind of that the people a bit younger than me. Who don't really get that, who didn't celebrate. When Andrew Redmayne saved that penalty against Peru, the country should have blown up as much as what they did when the Matildas won a game in the World Cup, but we've taken it for granted. Australians have taken for granted how big it is to actually make the World Cup. The fact is, getting a point at the World Cup, in my opinion, should be Australia's goal most World Cups, to get a point. To get out of the group is incredibly phenomenal. But no, do I think they could go further? Absolutely not. They just don't have the quality. Do you say 10 years? Okay, yeah, there's a few young Australians going over. I know Marco Tilio's gone to Celtic. I know Geordie Bose is, he's playing in Belgium. I know Australia's have a few good young players gone overseas. But that's the assumption that every other country doesn't get better in 10 years either. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are coming from a long way back. I think Australians, we need to get a reality check and say simply making the World Cup for our men is a phenomenal achievement, an extraordinary achievement. They spoke about building a statue. They spoke about building a statue for the Matildas because they finished fourth, which is fantastic. I don't disagree. The fact that the Australian men's have made 4 World Cups in a row, that should be a statue built. To make 4 World Cups in a row for a country, might I add, who prior to 2006 only made 1 ever World Cup. That's madness. Madness. So no, I don't think we could have gone further with a different draw. In fact, I think the draw was quite favorable to us. We're always going to get drawn a France or a Germany or someone like that in our group stage because of the way the pots are placed. We're always going to get drawn one of those big boys. That's a reality. So,
mate, and I agree with you. I mean, it's something as a POM. Everyone's like, oh, you've got to win it. You've got to win it. Facts are, it's once every 4 years, and you are talking the very best. It's unlike anything else you'll ever see. Do you know what I mean? Like Premier League, you can have a bad year, dust yourself down. 38 games comes round in 6 weeks, 8 weeks time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. With this, you've got to sleep on it for 4 years. Whatever structure work, there's going to be retirements, new kids come through, constant revolving door. If England struggle with our depth, imagine what Australia does, where half of the talented kids are playing footy, the other half are playing NRL, and you're left with kind of the dregs, really, after them 2 spots.
Yeah, and I do believe, this is just my opinion. I do believe that the hardest thing for Australian football, right, for soccer in Australia, is the supporters and the part-time nature in which they follow the game, which is fine. I got nothing against that, right? I love when people jump on board. It's so good. But the problem with the part-time nature of following the game is they drop off for the 4 years. They don't even watch the qualifiers, and all of a sudden they act shocked. Oh, geez, what do you mean Australia had to play Peru to make the World Cup? I thought we just qualified. Isn't that what happened? That causes issues. The part-time nature of the soccer supporters in the country actually create that unrealistic expectation, that unrealistic, I do remember, I tell a funny story about listening to Australian media, football media, AFL media, who try and talk soccer when it's on, laughable. And I remember them saying, geez, and his name's Tom Morris, I'll say who it was. Geez, we should be able to beat Argentina. All they've got is Messi. We don't really know any other blokes. And I'm like, mate, you're taking the piss, bro. Tell me you don't understand the sport without telling me. Their entire starting 11 plays in the best leagues in the world. And he's saying, all they've got is Messi. If we can stop him, we'll beat them. Oh, you fucking stick to your lane. And unfortunately, and it's great. Like, it's good that the country gets around it when it happens. But that's what happens. You got people who are horrendously underqualified making statements like, all they've got is Messi. And all France have is Mbappe. up, excuse me? Like, you ask these people name 10 world footballers and they probably couldn't. So, yeah, the part-time nature of Australians as soccer fans probably holds the sport back more than anything.
Mate, I agree. And great question from Max. The Women's World Cup, you know what annoyed me is controversial, and I mean this in the least harshest way. So don't take me out of context, but I find women's football the best consumer sport. Like if you're one of them people that always compares AFL to AFLW, you're always going to be disappointed. Yeah. It's a new game to the girls. If you want a sport where you can watch the men and the women and still see a decent level, fast pace, it looks the same game, no special rules. The women's is very high quality, very high quality. And I enjoy watching the Prem in the UK as well. Great question here. I was actually really disappointed with the attitude from the Australian public when they kind of dropped off that third, fourth place game. Like I was saying to my wife, this is huge. Third of the World Cup, fucking huge. Absolutely mental, right? Fourth
but you proved
is
the
amazing.
Point. You proved the point. Yeah, but you proved the point of what I was saying. I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, believed the Australian population didn't even realise there was a third place playoff. I know for a fact there were people who didn't. I have family members who didn't realise there was a third place playoff. In-laws married into the family. I won't throw my own blood under the there, who didn't realise. SEN, the home of sport, as they call, literally Australia lost and they changed their emblem back from the green and gold to the black. I'm like, bro, don't you realize that you've still got a third place playoff to go?
It was 5 minutes after we knocked him out as well.
Yeah. Piss take.
Piss. Like they didn't even give it the night time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think people didn't even realize it was her. But like with a fully fit Sam Kerr, do you think it would have won the whole thing? Look, maybe, possibly. I don't know. I think Australia going into the World Cup, the fact that it was at home probably made them more favourites than what they wanted to be. But the reality is, Australia aren't the fourth best team in the world in women's football, not by a long shot. But they finished fourth at a World Cup, and it's brilliant,
mate. I think they did.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to remember, Australia are ranked 11 in the world, right? Which to me, for the women, is a mental achievement. A mental achievement. Like, you put it in perspective, the women have the same issues as the men do, right? But you think of the nations Australia's women are ranked above are insane when you put it into the perspective of these are a heavy football culture. So you've got the Italians, you've got the Portuguese, do you know what I mean? Scotland, Ireland, do you know what I mean? These are countries that have football pedigree in their blood. Argentina, Mexico, like these people are born with a football at their feet. For Australia to rise up to that, the Premier League, Women's League, you've got a fuckload of Aussies there. Do you know what I mean? Like brand names to Poms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that people really struggle with, I know Australian sporting culture is a really weird thing. So Australian sporting culture is that they don't like to lose, or winning's everything, win at all costs, and all this stuff. The dogged fighters of the world, the underdogs of the world. And it's a really bizarre thing. And I know growing up as a massive soccer fan and a massive AFL fan, having these conversations with people about, and they're not understanding why I was stoked with West Ham drawing 0-0 to Chelsea. I'm acting like it's a win, when I was a kid, or gee, Southampton get a 1-0 win against Arsenal. That's a great result. But people who don't understand it, actually, they find it hard, because it's, like I'm saying, Australia's biggest celebration is getting to a World Cup. It's as simple as that. But Australian sport culture doesn't, they think, oh, we're there, so we've got to win it. And getting there is the real winner. And I don't know. The jury's still out with and this is a great question with the W League. The jury's still out because I did my own little bit of survey amongst people at my work who were really up and about with the Women's World Cup. And that's so fantastic. People who, might I add, have called me many, many names under the sun about supporting the stupidest sport in the world, as they would call it. But they were up and about for the women's soccer, which is so good to see. And I actually did some survey, and the question I asked was, would you have got up and watched this game if it was at 2 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning? And the answers were unequivocally, fuck no. So I think the sheer fact that it was on at prime time and good time for Australians is what made it as big as what it was. You know, I saw lots of things being bandied about, you know, all these numbers, and saying, well, 14 million people wouldn't have got up and watched Australia, the Matildas versus France if the game was on at 2:30 a.m. Australia time. That's a fact. So I'll be interested, like Terry, I'll be interested to see if the W League gets more support this year. We'll see. But to me, football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, you're right. It's an all-in sport. And I've said that to my mate. My mate comes to me and he says, Fazz, I really want to get into the round ball. What do you suggest? And I say, mate, you commit. Don't come to me half-assed and say, oh, I just want to watch highlights. I want to check this. You have to commit to this sport. It's like a marriage, and you got to work on it. Because living in Australia, watching the greatest sport on the planet, you have to commit, knowing your weekend is fucked because you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I've got to get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning to watch West Ham. I accept that my weekend is what it is. You commit to it, and it's unconditional, and you commit to it. So it's no surprise that people who aren't fully committed to it, who don't fully understand it, do drop off quite quickly.
Mate, I agree. And yeah, I mean, it's a good culture to get into as well. If you love your football,
absolutely.
I mean, the Poms embrace you. Like I'm in a group with Rangers fans. There's a couple of Aussies there. Like, they are heralded as heroes when there's always a game day post where you're watching, and like they find it mental that some guy's out in a patio, pitch black, having a beer at 3 a.m, and like people get endeared by that because it's the respect, the commitment. But obviously, if you are going to follow women's Premier League, times are probably more friendly than the men because they play between the hours of 7 p.m. our time and midnight, so they're very manageable to watch. And the women's league, the W League, kicks off pretty soon, doesn't it? Isn't it about 3 weeks away?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. And lots of Matildas play in the Women's Premier League. The Matildas goalkeepers, West Ham's goalkeeper, we know Sam Kerr's over there. So Fowler plays for Man City. So it's no better time if you're wanting to get into it, no better time than now. That's for sure. I agree on that.
You know, one thing I wanted to say about the Women's World Cup as well, huge respect as well for nations like France. England did it as well. The fact that they had their own individual takes on the iconic jerseys, which I was saying this to my wife, the fact that they didn't copy it, it actually felt, because I bought an England women's shirt, it felt special because it was different. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like sometimes I feel like women's sport gets hand-me-downs almost. Like, you can still support the men. Like, it's almost like, I can put the Carlton Guernsey on and it's the same Guernsey. I like the individual touch of that. And I thought, like, France playing in the pale blue as opposed to the navy blue that we're famous with. I love that it felt personalized. It felt like it was, you were doing something special.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as far as spectacles go, it was a brilliant event. It was an absolutely brilliant event, and long may it continue. And it put Australia on the map as well, like Ange is doing with Tottenham. Put Australia on the map. There'd be people all over the world talking about, gee, I went down to this country called Australia to watch the World Cup, and what a place. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Terry's right. You know, especially in Victoria, we're always going to be competing against AFL media. To, you know, fighting for those good stories. You know, you're still hearing about the hooligans, as they say, and all that. And yeah, we're never going to win that battle, unfortunately.
Congratulations to Lockie Jack as well. Premiers.
Well done.
Premiers.
Well done.
Do you know what I mean? Max, I love you, mate. If it's between nation of birth and nations of residence, always backing him in. But Australia, always my second. One final question for you, Fazz, and you guys at home.
Yep.
I would love it. I thought the World Cup, Women's World Cup, showcased that Australia can host a major footballing event.
Mm-hmm.
Do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Because obviously FIFA aren't ever going to change the dates again. They've pretty much confirmed anyone who wins the World Cup. It screamed to me.
That was a complete fuck show.
Yeah, it screamed to me we could do it. But do you think the AFL will relinquish the big grounds? Because it would need to be the G. It would need to be 90, 100,000 for a World Cup final. We'd need the SCG, the Adelaide Oval. Do you think there is a world that exists that the men could host the World Cup here? Because I think it would be the best World Cup for a long time.
You said it so yourself not 2 minutes ago when you said your country always comes first. England always comes first. I would sincerely hope that there was any shred of decency or understanding for anyone in the AFL to understand this is not about soccer versus AFL. It's not about getting more kids playing this, more kids doing that. This is about the country, what we can do for this country. And don't fucking kid yourself, AFL. If you think that you can't get some publicity out of the World Cup being down here, then you've got the wrong people in the job. The AFL are a pack of morons who got no idea what they're doing, because they should be the ones going to Football Australia and saying, let's work together for the betterness of the country. But also, we scratch your back, you scratch ours. Everybody wins. This whole code wars it's childish. It makes no sense. I just don't get it. Why can't, I love AFL as much as I love soccer. Why can't other people just do the same thing? It just makes no sense.
Mate, I agree with Cameron. I worked it out. You need 4 weeks. So why couldn't you do a 2-week buy? Do you know what I mean? For a start, right? 2-week buy, a gather round. Do you know what I mean? You could make it happen, and then maybe a Tasmanian thing. So you're saying AFL don't on the MCG, but FIFA confirmed the MCG was removed and Marvel for the Women's World Cup. That they have enough pressure, even though they don't own it, the AFL can pressure that decision. I think, as a foreigner who lives here now, I just think the American World Cup, I'm old enough to remember it, 94, insane, because it was a nation that wasn't known for football, and it was insane. Do you know what I mean? To see the faces of people supporting teams that they probably didn't even know, because it's America. So they probably didn't know Bulgaria existed, right? I think to see the faces of Australian kids having it, because that's beautiful. I've had the Euros near me, and we all fell in love with it was Bulgaria. They stayed in my area when I was a kid, and we got to visit the school, got to visit their training, and they became your second team through the Euros. Yeah. Imagine that here. Do you know what I mean? You've got Argentina stationed in bloody Bondora. But Messi turning up at Bondoria Primary.
But they don't get it. What the AFL don't get, and I see they're a business, and 100%. If they are a business and they want to act like a proper business, then use this to enhance your brand, to enhance your business. What better way than getting Lionel Messi to show up at an AFL game? Do you know what I mean? It's just fucking moronic. How they cannot see that this can be in their benefit. How can they not see it's not in their benefit? Relinquish the MCG and Marvel for a little bit, and all of a sudden Lionel Messi rocks up at Optus Stadium to watch West Coast versus Fremantle. Bang. It is so fucking simple. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Do they honestly think that AFL is going to fold because they hold a 4-week tournament?
Mate, I think Lockie Jack's idea here, you could have a community round as well. We go back to the old grounds.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like a retro round. You can, but I agree with you, Fazz, because I said this about the Women's World Cup. I thought the AFL teams missed an opportunity that the AFL maximised it. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, how cool would it have been that we embraced the women other nations. Like, how good would it have been at the World Cup if, I don't know, like, do you know what I mean, France came to Icon Park and there was a big collab with the women. Do you know what I mean? Like, just I know Australia isn't France, but just that kind of thing of cross-pollination, people getting eyes on it. And it works because, you know, like I was saying about Italy. Do you know what I mean? Italy came over here. Why isn't Italy, with such a huge culture at Carlton, somehow involved with Carlton?
It's ridiculous. I actually tagged Newcastle United's Twitter account into a Collingwood thing, being like, how have Collingwood and Newcastle United not done something together? Like, how has that not happened? Like, black and white stripes, get Juventus involved. Like, how has it not happened? Because you know why? Because AFL people, everyone, they're so narrow-minded, they can't see out their own blowhole to not realize the opportunities. You bring a World Cup, all of a sudden, Chelsea, hey, do you know, newsflash, you know what Chelsea's nickname are? The Blues. Well, fuck me. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It drives me, it drives me insane to think that they can't see outside their own little bubble to think you give a little to get a little. Having the World Cup here, and if the AFL was smart, they could increase their brand. They've been trying to get into different countries for years with failure. Why? Because it's a shit sport. It's a shit sport unless you like it, AFL. That's a fact. International people find it hard to watch. So what better way to get into it? Kids. Oh, look, there's Mbappe watching Collingwood versus GWS. Oh, maybe I'll get into it. Like, it is not that hard. Like, oh, man, I'm going to get so angry.
Mate, you're spot on. I've had a good mate of mine, Phil, in the UK. He's a massive Spurs fan, massive Spurs man. He's been asking me questions since Ange has come, because Ange mentioned in their interview in their website, what teams do you support? He mentioned Carlton Football Club. So he assumed they were a soccer club, right? But now he is like literally wanting to know everything about it, and I was like, how is Carlton not cross-pollinated? Like I said to him, I hope in the off-season I see Cripps at Tottenham Stadium. Like, use your logic. Vossi, Doc, Cripps, go and see Ange. Present him Carlton Guernsey. He presents them a Spurs number 9 Cripps, Spurs fucking 15 Doherty. And I was like, cross-pollinate. Mate,
and it just gets better. With your Carlton membership, you can get Tottenham, watch Tottenham games from their website with your Carlton membership. It's not that difficult, mate. I'm not even a businessman, and I've just Ange Postecoglou's done more for AFL in one sentence than what they've done getting off their fat asses. Like, it's so easy. Soccer is the biggest, most successful sport in the world. Why wouldn't you want to try and piggyback off it? Like, it's crazy, man. What a question. We've been speaking about this for the last 20 odd minutes. What a question.
It's something both me and Fazz are passionate about. I might be a pom, but I think in my mind, football and my football should be number 1 and 2 in this country. Like, 2 great games.
Absolutely.
Blags my head. And Fazzy's right. The Americans, when they brought NFL over to the UK, they capitalized on the soccer culture. So we had Tom Brady. Now he's bought a football club, Birmingham. But we had Tom Brady at away games. Do you know what I mean? They started to slowly soften the British public up that Yanks were coming. And before you know it, the Poms love the NFL because they started training at the big grounds. They started creating that cross-brand that if you support Arsenal, you support this NFL team. Real clever stuff that English people are suckers for something to support. So Ange tells Spurs fans, if you're a Spurs fan, you're a Carlton fan, they're going to be like, okay, cool.
Exactly. And I think this is the point. Instead of the AFL thinking about, they might lose supporters from AFL to soccer, think about what you can get from overseas to support you. It's a global brand. Before you know it, you're selling Carlton jumpers in London because Ange Postecoglou is the manager of Tottenham, and he's mentioned this. What's this team? Like it's. I don't know. I surely it can't be that. Surely it can't be this easy. Like if we have solved the problem on this, surely it can't be that easy. But I don't know.
Can I just say, if Spurs win an FA Cup and Carlton aren't cross-pollinating, I'll flip.
You say it's the easiest slogan ever. Success breeds success. Ange Postecoglou, a mad Carlton supporter, successful manager, breeds success. We want success. Bang, bang, bang. Like it's the easiest marketing tool of all time.
Tell you what, great question as well from our good friend Adrian.
Yeah.
Messi, why is American honestly, right?
It's the accent. It's the accent, I reckon.
Oh no, I think it's the fact that they try and make the most basic thing dramatic. So, like, you'll see a layoff, and a British commentator will be like, Declan Rice brings the ball down, lays it off on the outside. Americans, they make that layoff sound like a 50-yard volley that's hit the top
yeah. But there's a perfect example. Messi going to play in America, and you've got an Englishman, an Australian at 10 o'clock on a Friday night talking about the MLS. That is what's the opportunity here that Gil McLaughlin and Andrew Gillen or whatever they are going to miss out on because they've got no foresight.
Well, I mean, we fixed the AFL, we fixed the football, we fixed memberships. Tell you what, Cowan should employ us.
Absolutely, they should. Absolutely.
You could have the
untapped market.
Hey, you could have the Postecoglou membership that gives you KO and Optus.
Absolutely. The untapped market is only the rest of the world. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just so crazy. Anyway, what a question.
I would be gutted though if Carlton's second team became Spurs, as would you.
I know. Absolutely, but it's not about us. It's about the people who don't have a team already. That's what it's about. Getting those people in. We're already in. We're already in. West Ham could get. Well, that's West Ham could get relegated to the 4th division. I'm still in on that. You know, I mean, like we're all in. It's the people who aren't in that we want to get in. You know, that's your target. Your target is those people.
Mate, Fazz, as always, Ripper Show. Thank you for the questions. You've got us ranting about MLS, A-League, everything. But we'll see you next week, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your international break. See you next week.